Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. This is Samantha speaking, and I'm joined by Amanda. You can see there below me. We'll just give everyone a few minutes to get signed on before we get started, as we can see people joining us. But again, thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar, How to Get 100 Plus More Blog Views, 6 Proven Strategies. For those of you who are not familiar with 20 over 10, we are a web development company, marketing company that works specifically with financial advisors. That is the only clientele that we work with. And on the front end, we have design services, copywriting services, SEO services to help you market your firms. But then on the back end, we have an entire platform that allows you to keep your marketing up to date. So it is a CMS, a content management system that you can log into to keep your website up to date, to write your blog posts and disseminate them, all sorts of tools for you to use. So again, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out 20over10.com. Just a few housekeeping items before we jump into today's presentation. So this is going to be recorded, so if you need to leave at any point, of course, feel free to step out and you'll get the recording emailed to you. I also wanted to introduce Savannah, who from our team will be on the back end in the live chat and the Q&A control panel. So if you have any questions at all, you can put them in the Q&A and she'll either answer them there or she'll throw them over to Amanda and I live. And then if you want, to just make a comment on something or answer a question, you can go ahead and put that in the comment panel, and everyone can see those comments. So not just us or just you, everyone can see those comments. So since we have a good amount of people signed on now, I'm going to go ahead and start a poll. Get it going here. I may just need to bear with me here, get to exit the full screen.
You see it, Sam?
I can see it at my, doesn't want to let me hit the button to launch it. Why don't you, there we go. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. And once everyone has answered, then we'll go into it. But really what we want to know is, of the different topics that we will be talking about today, what is it that everyone is most interested to hear about? So we'll try to spend the most time on that particular area rather than, waxing on about a topic that not as many people are excited to learn. So you can see we're going to talk about these different areas today: how to formulate a good blog, and what we really mean is what are the components, what makes up a good blog, how to make your blog post more shareable, how to boost your blog performance in the search engine, so search engine optimization. SEO is something everyone always wants to know more about. How to leverage guest posting to reach more people, and then how to use analytics to improve your blog. So go ahead and take a minute or so to answer that, and like I said, that will be really helpful to Amanda and I as we're going through the presentation today. But we want to hear from all of you. We want to know that, this is being helpful, that we're answering your questions. We don't want to just be presenting on slides if the slide we're on is something you already understand or know. So if we're working on something, explaining it, and you guys have additional questions, please, please, please use those comments, the comment box or the Q&A box, so that we can make sure that we're really offering the best value and use of your time today and getting to the point of what you really want to learn most about. So it looks like the highest percentage of people, really 30% and 40%, the top two topics are how to formulate a good blog and then how to boost your blog for the search engine. So we will certainly, try to spend the most time on those two topic areas as we go through today's presentation. All right. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. Okay. So we will go ahead and get started. Again, this is how to get 100 plus more blog views, 6 proven strategies. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. Again, I'm Samantha Russell from 20 Over 10. My title is Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer, but I always like to tell people more about what I do beyond a title. My day-to-day role here, I've been with the company since we launched a few years ago. So I've really helped drive our strategy for attaining new customers. How do we market our own platform? A lot of it has come down to our inbound marketing strategy, which deals with our blog and SEO. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about today, I'll be able to share specific, background stories of what worked for us here at 20 Over 10. And then joining me is Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Larson. I'm Assistant Director of Digital Marketing here at 20 Over 10. I joined the team almost a year ago. This March, it'll be a year. Obviously, Samantha and I are in different locations, as you can probably tell from our backgrounds. So I'm actually in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I have a good background in digital marketing and also public relations, too, is kind of my background. Here at 20 Over 10, I run our blog, which is blog.20over10.com. I also manage all of our social media accounts as well as our email marketing campaigns. And then in addition to that, I know some of the attendees I see on this list, I notice a few names here, so I'm sure we've spoken on the phone before. I work with a lot of our clients on website copy, on Google Analytics, on SEO, social media. So I'm also working with clients daily on their digital marketing efforts.
Thanks, Amanda. Yeah, and that brings up a good point. Because we looked at the attendee list, about 50% were current 20 Over 10 clients and 50% were not. During the presentation, we will show you a couple tricks using 20 Over 10's own app on how to do what we're telling you to do using the 20 Over 10 platform. So if you're not a 20 Over 10 user during those points, it still will be relevant, and we'll talk about how you would do it in the platform that you're in. But for those who are 20 Over 10 users, at those points, you'll want to take good notes, or make sure you fast forward to that part of the recording when you're watching it again later. Okay. So we've already talked about this. This is what our back end looks like, our content management system. Again, it's made specifically for financial advisors, and what that means is that everything we do is compliance friendly and archived, and if needed to be sent off to your compliance officer for approvals before being submitted. So if you want to learn more, again, go to 20over10.com to learn more about that. So you guys saw in the poll, these are the things we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to tackle the first 3, and Amanda's going to tackle the last 3. But again, it'll be conversational, so we'll go back and forth on all of these points. So let's get started. Enough talking about how it's going to go. So this graphic is something that we just put together to get you all to understand that even though we're going to cover all 6 of these points today, that really at the heart of what we're talking about, that big green section in the middle, that's going to be the most important. And that was actually the top chosen response in the poll, right? How to formulate a good blog. And what we mean by that is you should not worry about SEO or social sharing or the images you use or the analytics in the beginning as much as, are you writing good content, great content that's original, that's thought-provoking, that your readers will want to read. That's what's going to make your blog a success. Once you've got that down, then you can focus on the next 3 areas that you can see there. So things like search engine optimization, looking at your analytics, having social sharing. And then finally on that outer rim would be things that are really on the periphery that do make a difference between, a blog being here and another blog being here, but you really are going to master those last. So those would be things like imagery, using guest posting strategies, email marketing, things like that. So what we're going to spend the most time on that you all voted for, which is great to hear, is the 4 things in the heart there. So to start, we're going to talk about great content. And when we say great content, what we really mean is great original content. We're not talking today about how do you take a post from the Wall Street Journal and put it on your blog and get people to interact with your website. We mean you're writing this content. So our 3 basic tips, if we had to distill them down, would be to help your readers, number one, always number one, help your readers. If you look at our blog, everything we write about is directly related to what are the people we're working with asking us about. And actually, we have our sales team give us, daily a report of what kinds of questions people are asking, and then we turn those into blog posts all the time. Additionally, with webinars, we give webinars like these. You all will give us feedback in the comments or in the Q&A, and we take those questions and turn them into future blog posts. And you really want your blog posts to be as specific as possible. You'll find it'll be easier to write, but you'll also find that you have a lot more blog topics to write about, right? So you can take a topic such as, home buying, and you could turn that into 20 different questions that you get asked, and each one of those would be its own individual blog post. So rather than being broad, you want to be as hyper-specific as possible. And this, again, really comes down to knowing your audience and putting in the time to think about what are the questions that they ask, and how would you specifically answer those questions? And I know sometimes it's going to be like, well, it depends upon the client. That's okay. I saw a blog post the other day where the writer is a financial advisor, and his post was, should you lease or buy a car? We run the numbers for 3 different potential couples. And so he broke it down into 3 different, they were all made up obviously, but 3 different potential couples he'd be working with, what their income was, what their debt was, just everything they would need to know, and then broke it down to would they lease or buy a car. That's a great post. It's very specific, especially for his audience, because he's working with younger millennials. I have another client that we work with, and he works with the sharing economy. And so he had a post, and it was, you've rented your home on VRBO or Airbnb and made some money. Now what do you do about taxes? That's another great post, right? So it's going to be very specific and helpful to the entrepreneurs who own their own businesses that he's working with. If your audience is more general, in the sense that you don't have like that specific of a niche, you're not working with physicians only or targeting sharing economy workers, but just lots of families, you can still do this same approach, right? It's just what are the questions you're getting asked day in and day out in your meetings with clients that you can turn into blog posts. So the second tip is then to go beyond that and think about what are trending topics. So this is much more of a strategy if you're also thinking about boosting your blog for SEO, which a lot of people have expressed interest in. And why I say that is Google has their algorithm for how they rank things is ever changing and has, hundreds of factors, I think over 200. We have a blog post about that if you want to read it. But what is one of the key ways that you can quickly rise in the results is if there's a trending topic and you're one of the first people to write about it, you can quickly have your blog post shoot through the roof in the rankings, because whatever's freshest on a topic can often rise to the top. Even if your blog is a much smaller blog, is much more unknown than some of the bigger bloggers. So it's a great opportunity to make a quick splash. So if you want to figure out how to do that, there's 3 tools we recommend that you can use: Quora, BuzzSumo, and Google Trends. Amanda, do you want to speak a little bit about those 3 just broadly?
Yeah, sure. So all 3 of these tools are free for you to use. There is a difference between the 3 of them. So Quora is more of like a Q&A community type forum, I guess you could call it. But it is a good gold mine almost for content inspiration. But it's useful to see what types of topics are going to be trending across certain industries right now. BuzzSumo is more of a content analysis tool. So it's going to identify content for any given search term that you put in or a URL. And it's really going to be tracking the social shares of that keyword or that URL. So that's more based on social sharing. And then Google Trends, we all know what Google is. So this particular tool is really only going to monitor trends that are in Google. and Google searches. So it's going to show the popularity of a keyword relative to the search volume that it's seen on Google.
Yeah, so I have the Google Trends pulled up here, and this is the one that Amanda uses with our team for our own blog, correct? You use Google Trends most often.
Yeah.
And so some really cool things about this is you can get specific to an area. So for instance, if we click on New York, you're going to see the major metro areas of New York. It'll break it down into Albany, New York City, Rochester. And then you can get as specific as what are people searching in the last hour related to that topic. So when we talk about being one of the first to write about something, not, a lot of advisors are not going to be able to do this day in and day out. But if you're someone who's younger and you're just trying to grow your business and time is the most valuable resource you have, this is a great opportunity. Or if you have a larger practice and you have maybe a marketing intern or a marketing assistant you've hired or somebody, working on your team that this is part of their job responsibilities, this is a great tool for them to go in and see what is a trending topic on a subject, whether it's financial planning, estate planning, high net worth clients, inheritance, taxes, whatever it is that you're well versed on, and they can quickly put together, a first draft, and then you can go in and edit it. This is a great way to quickly rise, as I mentioned before, in the rankings for that particular term. So you can also see down in the bottom right there's related queries, which is great. So we put in the term financial planning, but it also showed us what are other terms that people are searching related to that. So if we had done a search for high net worth inheritance strategies or gifting strategies, it will give us 5 other queries that people are searching that are similar to that. With the keywords you would need to know, and then you can see the plus or minus percentages. So it's showing you, is that search term becoming more or less popular over time as well.
Mm-hmm. I think too, Sam, what's interesting at the top there, you can see that line graph. So you can pick obviously your time frame, like Sam mentioned, if you just want to look at the last hour, if you want to look at the last year. But it's also interesting to see if there's certain months where it's higher than others. Maybe due to tax season or, other things that are happening during the calendar year, which can really help you kind of plan, future blog posts and things like that.
Yeah, like on this graph, you can see that the financial planning term overall between January and just before May is a lot higher. And then it takes a dip over the summer months when people aren't focusing on it as much. So we really recommend this tool. Again, and we use it all the time and find it to be incredibly helpful. So then the third tip is Evergreen Content. For those of you who are maybe new to digital marketing just in general, what that means is content, just like an evergreen tree, that is going to stay relevant over time. It doesn't lose its relevancy, if you will. So instead of writing a post that's on something that's trending, in this instance, you would write, so, instead of writing about Bitcoin and how it's rising right now, or I guess it's declining actually right now, but the interest in it is maybe peaked more. But you could write about something just like talking to your kids about money, or what's the, what's an appropriate amount of an allowance for a child. Something that's going to stay relevant for at least, a year, if not longer, a couple years. This is also when we're looking at these 3 things, this should be an overall strategy. So you want to combine these 3 things together. So you're always going to be helping your readers, but then you want to have a mix of trending topics and evergreen content. I would suggest, overall, the evergreen is going to work long-term to your blog's benefit, because trending topics, you'll see a huge spike immediately, but then over time it's going to go back down, right? Evergreen content will keep your blog trucking along, boosting your site's SEO rankings higher over time. You'll get more bang for your buck in the long run. So you want to use both of those strategies combined. People will always ask, well, okay, if I can only blog, I can only blog so much. What is that magic number? How much should I be blogging? If you go to that link at the bottom there, which Savannah will share in the chat box with everyone, that Q&A, your blogging questions answered, we talk in there about frequency, how often you should be blogging, the types of content. All studies show 2 to 3 times a week is the sweet spot to really have a blog take off. I know for a lot of you that's just not realistic. So if you can at least post once a week with copy and content and thought leadership and your expertise that's really well written, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck than just trying to throw anything up there 2 to 3 times a week to meet that minimum threshold. So we talked a little bit about this. You'll notice throughout all of the presentation, we'll have these homework slides. And so what we just mean is this is something you can actually take and turn into, a little homework assignment that either you or whoever on your team would be responsible for this can use, to your advantage. So we definitely suggest you sign up for Google Trends and use this before formulating an upcoming blog post. I just wanted to do a quick plug for this since obviously we are here from 20 over 10. I know so many people will say, blogging 2 to 3 times a week, there's no way, or I'm not even going to be able to do it once a week. Like, there's just no way. That's why I need to buy content from someone else. We recently launched a new product called Content Assist. If you want to learn more about it, the link's at the bottom. Savannah will put it in. It's not content that you just take and add to your blog as is. That's not the purpose. It's supposed to be more like our team is ghostwriting content for you. So you would take something like 5 questions to ask before hiring a financial planner that you see there, and maybe make it 5 questions to ask before hiring a fee-only fiduciary planner, if that's where you are in Atlanta, Georgia. And you put your keywords in there, which I'm going to show you later anyways from the SEO point of things. But this is content that once you buy the subscription to it, you pop it into your blog as a starting point, just as if you had hired somebody on your team to start writing these articles for you, and then you customize it for your audience. So any of them can be taken and you can add the geographic keywords, the niche keywords, you can take out paragraphs, add sentences, remove things. This is our solution to the comment we get from people all the time when we're giving these presentations, which is, this is all great, but I just don't have the time to do it. It's at the bottom of my priority list. We're running a special right now because we just launched it, so you can get $100 off if you use the code YAYCA, YAYCA. Savannah will put that in the comment box as well. But if you have any other questions, of course, you can go to 20over10.com Content Assist and check out more about it there. Okay. So I mentioned how you optimize those posts for SEO. So that leads us to a great segue into our SEO tips. So first of all, I just want to point out, if you go to the 20 over 10 blog and you search the term SEO, we have webinars on SEO. We have tons of blog posts on SEO, tips that you can take. If you're a 20 over 10 user and you go into support and you search SEO, there's other tips there. So we have hours and hours of content just on this topic because it is highly complicated and there's so much that goes into it. But if we had to distill it down into just 3 points that you could actually do today, these are the 3 things that we would suggest. So those 3 things are starting with knowing your keywords. And what we mean by that is not just knowing what keywords you want to rank for, but the ones you actually have a chance, right? So if you are hoping that anyone in the United States searches financial advisor and you're going to come up, I'm sorry to tell you, but that's probably never going to happen. It would take a lot of people behind you and a ton of money to make that happen as a small firm, or even a larger one. The companies that come up, you could try it for yourself, but you have a much better option of coming up if you are hoping to be location-based, geographic-based with keywords, things like that. So when we say know your keywords, not only know what keywords you hope to rank for, but which ones you stand a chance to rank for. So you can use Google's keyword tool to figure that out. There's Google Search Console that can help you figure that out. Our company, if you're a 20 over 10 client, we have SEO packages. You can hire an outside SEO firm to help you. There's lots of different tools that you can use, but Google's Keyword Planner is a really great one. It'll show you the competitiveness of different keywords and how likely you are to rank for that. Anytime I'm talking to an advisor, and Amanda will tell you the same, the number 1 tip we're going to give you is focus on where you're located. Even if you say 30% of my clients come from all over the country, only 70% are here where I am physically located, that's okay, because your website isn't going to be the be-all, end-all of your digital marketing strategy, but you have to have some sort of focus if you hope to succeed at all. And we even have people who will come to us and they have 5 locations and they want to try and rank for all 5 locations. Your best bet is to pick your top location, your main headquarters, or even if it's not your main headquarters, but where maybe the most potential clients would be finding you. So if you have 5 locations, but you know the people with the highest net worth who you want to snag as a client are located around one of those 5 locations, choose that one and go with that. Because that's where you're going to have the best opportunity to be competitive and rank. So figuring that out is really the first step. And then what you do is you go back into the copy and you edit it throughout your site to include those keywords. So if you do have a niche, like I mentioned, one of our clients works with sharing economy workers. You know, he can put things like financial planning for Uber drivers in his site, and there's not that many people doing it, so he's going to get a lot more traction. But for a lot of you, if you don't have that specific of a niche, focusing on your geographic location is going to be the biggest bang for your buck. Wouldn't you say, Amanda?
Oh yeah, totally. We run into that a lot when talking with advisors, so that's number one key.
And then the second one is optimizing your header tags. So in order to explain this, I'm going to actually pull up the 20/10 back end here. Can you still see my screen okay, Amanda?
Yep.
Okay. So what you're looking at here is in our tool, if you were to go and pull up one of our blog posts and you were editing a post, you can see here you have your post title, your post URL slug, and then your content. If you're not a 20/10 user, wherever you're editing your content, you're still going to have these same components. You should. If you don't, you want to get in touch with somebody who can help you figure out how to edit them. But there's a few key places that you want to put keywords that you want to rank for in each blog post. So the first one is in the post title, and we cannot be more specific about this. What's the stat, Amanda? It's like 8 out of 10 people will read your headline. But only 2 out of 10 people will go on to read the rest of the copy.
Yeah.
So what you put in that headline is super crucial, not only to the search engine, but also to the people reading it. So you want to capture them. You want to ask a question. We talked a lot about answering questions. So in this example here, let's say I was an advisor in Columbus, Ohio. I could put, how much money do you need to buy a house in Columbus, Ohio? Having my keyword, which is Columbus, Ohio, in my post title is going to give me a much better chance to rank than if I were just to have it in the body copy. So you want to make sure that that is listed explicitly there. Then when we come down into the content, anytime you see big and bold text like this throughout the copy, that is actually called a header tag. You can have various types of header tags. In our system up here, you'll notice we have our normal paragraph font, and then we have over 4 different types of header tags. The bigger the header, the more large and bold that text is going to appear on the page. So it's going to signify to the reader that it has more importance, right? If you think about articles you read on the web all the time, you scan the headers typically when you're reading the article until you get to something you're interested in, then maybe you jump into the paragraph copy. Additionally, beyond just communicating something to your reader, it actually communicates something to the search engine. So Google will prioritize the keywords that are in those headers over what's in the paragraph text. So if you change this to, you knew a lot of people in Columbus were specifically looking in the suburbs of Dublin and Easton that you wanted to work with. How much house can you afford in Dublin and Easton? Putting those 2 keywords in there are going to, again, being very specific to the geographic area, going to give your blog a much better boost than just putting that in the paragraph copy. So you can see we have lots of different headers there that you could change them up. I suggest never, ever, ever writing a blog without using headers, at least H3, so header 3 tag. And typically breaking it up by, depending on how many paragraphs you have, but like 1 header per every 1 to 2 paragraphs. That's going to give you a better opportunity to have more keywords that you add. But also, if you think about it again, from a user perspective, people don't read websites and blog posts like they read a novel or a book, a physical book in their hand. They scan them. And by putting those in there, it's going to be something that's easy to scan. Then you also just would want in our system to come down to this SEO description. and make sure that one of those keywords is listed there too. So what we did here was add an interesting little stat. The average home in Columbus, Ohio is now $250,000. What this is going to do is this is going to be what shows up when someone does a search and they get a page of results in Google. This is going to be that copy that entices them on whether or not they should click on it. So if you can give them something really interesting, like, you know, maybe even, could you afford a $500,000 house in Columbus on X salary, or $1 million home in Columbus on whatever salary you want to, you know, again, to your audience, whatever you can put there that's going to be enticing to them is going to get you much more blog readership and more clicks. And then if you keep scrolling down here, you'll see we have this description where this is for social sharing. So for all of our clients who ever ask, I shared my blog post on Facebook, but like the description that came up was different than what I wanted it to say, you know, my summary. You have to actually scroll down here to the bottom and put in what you want that description to be. If you've already posted it to Facebook and then you add it in, you actually have to go and tell Facebook that you've added a description to what we call debug it, because Facebook just basically stores the data in there. So if you ever have any problems with that, contact our support team and they can explain it to you and help you fix it. But you'll want to make sure you always put your description for what you want it to say when people are sharing on social here as well. Amanda, I can't see any questions. Do we have any relevant questions that have come in that we should talk about now?
Yeah, it looks like Bruce is asking about using quote blocks in a post and if that benefits SEO the same way that headers do.
So from our system, that's a great question, Bruce. From our system, what he's talking about here, for those who may be unfamiliar, we have this little tool here where you can take something and put it out into quotes to increase or decrease it. And then when you see it on the page, it just pops it out and makes it stylistically look differently than the rest of the content. This is not an SEO tool. This is really just a styling tool that we've built into our own app. So for SEO purposes, no, it's not going to operate the same as headers. You would put the keywords in the headers, not the quote.
Yeah. There are a lot of really great questions about SEO. So just a few others. Carla asks if Google prioritizes H1s over H3s. So yeah, I think Sam kind of mentioned that. Carla, it's in ranking starting at H1 going all the way down to H4, H1 being, you know, the most prevalent. She's asking just because she likes the look of her H3 tag. She thinks that looks best on her page, but maybe she needs to change to H2.
So what I would definitely suggest though is that it's scary how smart Google is. You don't want to just you don't want to have 7 H1s in a post, because if you go and you were to look it up online, an H1 is supposed to be used as what we call the hero text. So hero text is your main big text, you know, at the forefront of what people see. So if I just come out of here and we're looking at this is hero text right here. Google does not want you to have 8 hero texts across your page, which is a hero text is also an H1. So for every post, you should only have one H1, which is really just going to be your title. Then inline, which is like actually in the post, you know, as you're formatting it, that's where you would choose which other titles you'd want to use. And we typically recommend using an H3 throughout. If you have one H2, that's fine, but you really don't want more than one H2.
Great. We do have 2 questions about this from Larry and Colleen. Do you want to use the same description for the SEO and the social, or do you want to make those different, and why?
Great question. So I typically recommend people can just make them the same. For all of you, again, your small businesses, you don't have a ton of time to really be thinking crazy amounts on this. If you had a lot of dollars to spend on Google AdWords and SEO and even Facebook ad campaigns, then yes, there are reasons why to separate them out. You want to think of the SEO description as somebody who's never heard of your firm who does a search, right? So if somebody just does a search on how much home can I afford to buy in Columbus, Ohio, and they come across this post, this is selling them on clicking on it. This is ad copy. It's just selling them on clicking on it. The social sharing post, if you think about it, most of the people that are going to see this, in order for them to see it, if you're not doing Facebook ads or LinkedIn sponsored posts, they have to be affiliated with you in some way or affiliated with someone you know. So they have to be a friend of a friend on LinkedIn or connected to your firm or you. And so you're less selling them on clicking on it because they already are more familiar with who you are and more just enticing them, right? So like I'm sure a lot of you have seen it'll be like 10 tax deductions most Americans don't take. And then people will have in the description, we were shocked when we read number 5, we miss it every year. So it's more just kind of playful and getting people to click on it. If you saw that in the SEO description, it's not as showing the expertise and the thought leadership. So for all of your purposes, again, I think it's fine to keep them the same. If you want to change them, that's what the difference is.
Great. I think just one more from an anonymous attendee is asking about Google moving towards keyword clusters and somewhat away from words and phrases. So can we elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a little bit more technical than what I want to get into in today's presentation because most of our attendees are not going to be SEO, I don't want to say savvy, but you have a pretty standard bench line of what it is that you're focusing on. For all of your purposes, what I would say is we definitely want to focus less on just one keyword and more on phrases or clusters of keywords that are all related to each other. So just think of it more as if you're focused on Columbus, Ohio, you wouldn't just use Columbus, Ohio throughout your post. You would use all the suburbs within Columbus that you would want to be targeting. So in this post, for instance, you could have a paragraph that lists out different desirable suburbs that your clients have expressed interest in. If you're writing a post on allowances, you may use different variations of the term, of the phrase, how much money do I give? Should my child be allowed for allowance? If you're writing, though, honestly, just from like the heart as if you were having a conversation with the client, a lot of those variations of phrases are going to naturally populate your content, right? Because when we talk about something, we typically use interchangeable words and phrases to describe it depending on where we are. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, again, and get too technical, but just think about the fact that you want to pick some specific strategy. So if you're going to pick geographic area, and it's Columbus, Ohio, you want to think of all the related keywords that somebody else could be searching as a variation of that, and then use those. So I guess a good way to explain this would be like for 20 over 10, our keyword is websites for financial advisors. If you come up here, you see, if you were to hover over, our homepage, here in the browser title, the page title, it says that. But when we write blog posts or we do content on our website, we have websites for RIAs, RIA websites, financial planning, marketing tips. We will use all different variations of keywords that would be related to that topic. And then that's the best way to rank for those keywords that you want to rank for. So, okay. We will continue to take more questions, but I'm going to move back to the presentation just because in the interest of time. The other thing that you want to do is add alt text to your images. This is another just easy win that anyone can do. Within our app, you can add them as well. We can show that at the end because it's just a quick little button. But basically, when you click on an image, there's an option to add an alt tag. And what an alt text or alt tag is since Google, they can technically now, I guess, search images, but they don't search them the same way that they search regular content. The best thing that you can do if you want to rank, and get an extra little boost is to tell the search engine what the image is about. So if you have an image of 2 real estate agents and they're meeting with a financial planner, or somebody, it looks like they're meeting with somebody in this image, you can say, the alt text you could use would be specifically describing that image. So real estate agents meeting with a financial planner. Those keywords now are affiliated with that image, which is affiliated with that blog post. So you're going to get the bigger boost to your blog post, your website. If you want more SEO tips, if you look here on the bottom, 6 tips to boosting on-page SEO, if you click on that, that will give you a ton of great tips. And again, it will link back to other SEO webinars and articles that we've done as well. Here again, it just shows you in our app, you can go in, choose different headers, choose to put alt tags on images. That little widget there that we have pulled up is where you go to make any of those changes. Okay, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, and then we're going to hand it over to Amanda and make sure we have time for questions at the end. But the guest post strategy is something that once you've started blogging and you've maybe got a good 6 months, quarter, year under your belt, you've got some good blogs going, this is a really, really great way to expand your audience in a natural way that is, going to continue to bring qualified leads to being aware of who you are. So what we mean by this is you find somebody like an estate attorney, a CPA, a real estate agent, anyone who's going to be working with clients, the type of people that you want to also get as clients. And the first most important thing is they need to have a blog, and it needs to be something that they, are actively doing. And you need to have a blog. So that's why, of course, we want you to spend a little time on your own before you reach out to them. But then you say to them, hey, I'd love to post on your blog financial planning tips for first-time home buyers. And then you as the real estate agent could do 5 things you never knew about buying a house in Columbus on my blog. And we'll post on each other's, we'll post it to our social media, channels. And now all of those real estate agents' clients who were unaware of you are going to now be aware of you. You will also be doing the same for them and, showing your readers that you're not just interested in promoting your own services, but, actually helping them. Additionally, you're building backlinks. So from an SEO perspective, one of the biggest things you can do is get links back to your site from other relevant websites and blogs. And this is a really great natural way to build a backlink. So people often think about this and they don't execute it. We will tell the clients we work with, if you can even do 1 guest blog post a quarter, you'll see, a huge difference. And again, especially now with the exponential reach of social media, them posting it to their channels, let's say not that many people go to their website to read their blog, but that real estate agent has, 1,000 people following them on Facebook, that blog is going to get a ton more views to an audience that may never have heard of you otherwise. All right, Amanda, I'm going to hand it over. Oh, I forgot. So the homework for this one is if you want to see who's already sending you traffic and maybe potentially could be a good person to do a guest post with, if you go into your Google Analytics and on the left-hand side there, you click on the acquisition tab and then down to referrals, you can click on that and you can get a list of other websites that are sending traffic to your blog or your site. So the first 2 here are MailChimp and Twitter, so we would bypass those. But then we can see WM McGuire. So this is a third-party marketing consultant that works with advisors. So he's been sending us some traffic. ETDFB is a site that posts on different topics for advisors. Iris is another site that curates content for advisors. So, we would reach out to them if we hadn't already and say, hey, thanks for linking to us. We want to be able to do the same for you. Can we set up some sort of more formal partnership to link back and forth to each other more often? So this is a great way to just see that referral traffic, where it's coming from, and how much you're actually getting.
Great. So I'm going to kind of go through these a little quickly so we have enough time for questions at the end. But first, I want to talk just about the image to word ratio. So believe it or not, there is kind of a secret ratio when you're using images in your blogs. This doesn't really affect SEO, but it's really more going to affect your user experience. So obviously more images. People love images. It doesn't necessarily matter how many you use in your blog post, but where you're placing them within the content you're posting. So we find that articles using an image every 75 to 100 words really usually gets double the amount of shares. So you just want to be sure that your visitors aren't landing on your blog and hitting a wall of text, or they're going to immediately bounce. I think people are a lot more visual learners. They like to see graphs. We like to just kind of see pretty images. So the more you can integrate those into your blog, the longer people will stay on your site and kind of explore more, maybe go to other blogs, things like that. Free image resources, there's a ton of these. Savannah will pop this link in the chat box, but we have a blog that kind of goes through 10 of our best and favorite sites for free stock photos. So a lot of people think, I don't want to use images because 1, they're cheesy, or 2, I have to pay a lot of money for them. So these are some really great resources for free photos, and they're actually pretty professional looking. They're not cheesy stock photos. So Savannah will pop that in the box for y'all to check out, so you can use some of those resources as you're writing your next blog. And then lastly, just create standards. You want to kind of establish your own style here. So, if your firm doesn't have a set of brand standards, create some. And especially if more people from your firm are going to be blogging and it's not just you, you want to kind of have some sort of standard that everybody's following to keep your brand consistent across the board. So just homework piece here again, just kind of showing how easily you can add in images and videos too in the 20/10 app. So this is just a screenshot like Sam had showed you earlier of the blog editor. Awesome. So social media. I think a lot of you are on social. If you're not, do it now. I think it's pretty standard for everyone to be, sharing their blogs on social media with a link and, posting that to their Facebook or their Twitter or their LinkedIn. But like Sam had mentioned earlier, it's going to be really important to add that teaser text when you're also sharing that link to your blog post. So what that teaser text is going to do is it's really going to entice your followers to really click the link and actually visit your blog and read that article. So you want to be sure you're always including that teaser text. And that goes for all of your channels, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Obviously on Twitter, you're going to be a little bit more limited to the amount of characters you can use. So you might need to tweak your messaging a little bit. But you always want to be sharing some of that teaser text. Outside of kind of just sharing the link and some teaser text to your personal profile, there are a few different things you can do. So on Facebook, you could consider joining, a special Facebook group that really caters to your niche and posting to that group the link to your blog post with a little bit of teaser text. So Sam, I think you were sharing an example with me earlier this week. One of our clients who works specifically with physicians, he became a part of a Facebook group for a local hospital in his area. And he started sharing blog posts on that Facebook group page. So that's a really great opportunity to reach a whole different audience that is really interested in what expertise you have to share specifically in that space of working with physicians.
Another quick example that I see, it's crazy in my own town, but I'm sure it's everywhere. Every town has like a Facebook moms group or like a Facebook community group for like certain neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. And the moms groups, especially like if you're a man in this presentation, it may be harder to join because I know a lot of them you have to be invited and you have to be female. But, if you're a woman financial planner, it's easy to join them. And then people will ask questions like that, like, hey, everyone, I'm wondering how much money to give my kids for allowance. You could chime in and say, here's, I'm actually a financial planner and I recommend this. Here's a blog post to it and just a link to it. And now all the moms in that group are going to see that post. Mm-hmm. So that's another really easy win for the female attendees in the audience.
Yeah, most definitely. I love it. For Twitter, so, think of Twitter and use it as like a search engine almost. So identify those people or those influencers who are kind of sharing similar content to you. And share yours back, reply to them. It's a two-way conversation. Reply to them and say, hey, I loved this post of yours, I loved your blog, check out mine, that type of thing. So it's definitely a two-way conversation. But looking for those influencers, people who have a large group of followers that, you really want to tap into and be a part of. And then lastly, we have LinkedIn. So Sam, if you want to go to the next slide, we can kind of see the LinkedIn publisher tool. So I'm not sure if any of you have had a chance to play around with this. It's somewhat of a newer tool that LinkedIn just launched. It's their publishing platform. So it's separate from just posting updates to your company page. This lets you post long form articles. So actually for 20 over 10, what we've been doing is really just repurposing our blogs as LinkedIn articles. And this helps make your articles more searchable both on and off LinkedIn. So if someone is searching for a topic in LinkedIn, your article is more likely to show up. But it's really, it's free. It's a part of your company and your personal account. When this screenshot in the bottom right-hand corner, once you go to your page, all you'll do is you'll click write an article and you'll get this editor, and you can simply start typing, or you can copy and paste your blog and kind of tailor it to your LinkedIn audience. You can add images, links. It's a pretty neat tool.
I do this all the time with the 20 over 10 blogs. I take them and post them to my own personal LinkedIn, but often I'll change them up to be specific because I know who I'm connected with on LinkedIn, and there's a lot of people connected who follow us for marketing tips that aren't using 20 over 10. So I'll remove the pieces that are related to that and only keep the just general, like, here's the tip without how to use it, the platform. So it could be the same for you.
Great. And then last, I think we've got here our analytics. So 3 components of your analytics that we kind of recommend that you pay close attention to: referrals, content drill down, and behavior flow, at least when it comes to blog and checking the analytics on your blog. So first, when you think of referrals, just think of ROI. Sam had kind of mentioned this earlier. As you're kind of looking at your referral analytics, maybe you're putting a ton of money into an ad campaign with someone, and it's really not driving any traffic to your website. Do you really want to spend that money? Are you getting a return on your investment there? So use your analytics. You can look at your referral sources there to see if those sites or those partners are really driving traffic to you. Next, we have our content drill down. So this is going to be really key too. I think, this is really going to tell you the types of content that people are gravitating towards, that they're really enjoying, or that's resonating most with them. So this will help you kind of better plan your editorial calendar for the future as you're thinking of new blogs, new things you can post about. And then it can also kind of give you intel on, okay, are there blogs, people are spending a lot of time on this particular blog. Maybe I should go back into it and optimize it a little bit. Maybe I should add some more images or add some more links to other pages of my website. So you can always kind of go back in and optimize those blog posts if you know you're getting a lot of traffic to certain blog posts. And then lastly, we just have behavior flow. So with the behavior flow in Google Analytics, you can really kind of visualize your user journey. Where do you want your users to go? So if you want more information, Savannah can pop this link in the chat box. We've got a ton of information on our blog about Google Analytics and how you can use that. It's a free tool, so if you're not using it, you definitely should be. And Sam, if you want to go to the next slide, this is just kind of shows you, this is the content drill down page, and this is for our blog. So you can see, outside of like our landing page, one of our top visited blogs is 6 steps to start your own financial planning business. And, secondly, the best financial advisor websites of 2016 is another top read blog of ours. So we can get a lot of intel off of these types of analytics.
And what's really interesting, if you look at this, right, one of our most read blog posts is 6 steps to start your own financial planning business. That's not what we do here.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting. And what we've done, though, is capitalize on the fact that there's not a lot of good content out there on how to start your own financial planning business. So we brought in a guest post, or guest contributor from, she's a coach. Her name is Arlene Moss. She wrote that article as a guest a guest contributor, and it is one of our top read blog posts continually. I think it's over 2 years old now. But what we continue to do is go back and optimize it. And then from that post, we link to a bunch of other posts on things like 5 steps to take when setting up marketing for your new business, or what you need, like a checklist when it comes to building your first website. So somebody who's already going to be thinking about what they have to do to launch the business, eventually they're going to get to that point where they want to work with a firm potentially like ours to launch the marketing for their business. So really want to be thinking strategically of how do you position yourself and the blogs that you're writing to answer the questions. It goes back to that question that the anonymous person asked about keyword clusters. How do you think about the types of keywords that are all interrelated and position yourself to be, coming up in the search results when somebody has a similar question? And that guest posting strategy is a great way to do that. You can also see here, though, what I find interesting is every quarter, and then at the end of every year, we do the best advisor websites, whatever the edition is. So spring, summer for the year, and those continually get, some of the most traction, because when somebody's doing a search for websites for financial advisors, they don't want to just see any websites. They want to see the best of them, right? Mm-hmm. So just by adding that keyword in, we've got a huge, huge boost to the blog as well. And one other thing about the referrals, I know I showed you on that previous page, any of you that are members of like a chamber of commerce and you're listed on their website, or if you're a member of NAPFA or XYPN or ACP or any like group or affiliation where you're listed on somebody else's website, when somebody goes to do like find an advisor, whether maybe you're using Guidevine or Criteo, you should be checking to see, are people actually clicking on your site from those listings? And then once they get there, what are they doing? So make sure you keep an eye on that as well, and that will give you some intel on how beneficial those partnerships and relationships are when it comes to a search engine perspective.
Definitely.
So I guess we should go through the rest of the questions that came in that maybe we didn't get to. If you have more, if you guys want to talk more about SEO, we can certainly go back to that. If you want to talk more about ideas for specific content, we can go back to that. Just a couple things as you're thinking about adding any other additional questions. You can go to blog.20over10/webinars and watch any of our other webinars where we get highly specific about things such as podcasting, how to be more specific with your geo area for local search, setting up your blog, all of those types of things. And then we actually have a webinar coming up next month. So if you go to 20over10.com/webinars, you can sign up for it. That's all about, Amanda, PR for advisors, right?
Yeah.
So that will be with the company Flackable. They'll be co-presenting it with us. So we'll be, super excited to have them on board and sharing their feedback as well. And then, if you want to chat with somebody from our team, you didn't get your question answered today, if you email the marketing at 20over10 link, it will be filtered over to Amanda, and she can get back to you and answer any questions you have, or she can send it to me if I need to chime in. But if you needed other ways to get in touch with us, those are the numbers and emails as well. So what other questions do we have, Amanda? Anything?
Let's see. It looks like Thomas is asking about optimizing older blog posts. So what does it do? What do you do to do that? And does it do anything for SEO?
Yes, it does. So what we mean when we say optimizing an older blog post is, let's say you had a post that you wrote back when you first started blogging on a topic like planning inheritances for your children. And then in the meantime, over the next year and a half, you wrote a post about allowances for children. You wrote a post about estate planning tips for high net worth individuals. And you wrote another one about, the secret to creating an estate plan that everyone in your family will be happy with. You would want to go back to that first original blog post and add some text in there that makes it easy to link to those other 3 posts that you wrote. So we talked about backlinks and how it's so important to build them. It's not only important to build them from outside sites, but build them within your own site. So what you would do is go back to that original post, and any other content that you've since developed that would be people may be interested to read if they land on that first post, you would be hyperlinking within your pages. You could also link to your main website. So if you just have a page on estate planning for high net worth individuals, you could link to it from that original blog post as well. So adding in those links would be really crucial. You would also potentially want to rewrite certain portions of it if it's not up to date anymore, right? So let's say there's a post on minimum distributions for IRAs, and the minimum distribution has changed. You'd want to go back and change that as well to optimize it. Google, if it sees that you're building links and it also sees that your posts have been modified and republished with fresher content, you will get an SEO boost from that. So we actually just once, I think every other week, we have it like a standing practice that we choose 1 or 2 posts, we go back and we edit them. And as you start building a huge content library, you really need to put yourself on a schedule because there will be a lot of content to go back and optimize. But you can even just start from like your oldest post and every week go down the line, looking at what you wrote and optimizing that one.
Yeah. Probably last question. So Bruce is asking, if we're building a blog but have articles or posts to clients from the past, how useful might it be to go back and have a scattering of predated posts so as to show more of a history and presence?
So if I understand the question right, you're asking, should you go back and change the date of the post that you've already written? What you want to be careful of is sometimes when you write, I don't know it depends what system you're on, Bruce. Sometimes the date of your post is in the URL slug, and if you change the date, it will change the link, and then that will create a broken link, and you don't want that. So you need to make sure that the link to the post is not changing, that the only thing that is changing would be the actual date that is being displayed. Is that answer the question?
I think he's asking, create new posts with prior dates with when it was originally written. If posting twice, oh wait, sorry, that's another Bruce. There's 2 Bruces. So no, he's asking if you're creating new posts with prior dates.
Oh, I see. I mean, I don't find that to be that good of a practice. I mean, it can look to the client like you have a longer history, but from an SEO perspective, the search engine will know when you published it for the first time. So if you want to do it so that your clients think that you have a longer blog history, then that's fine. Yeah. And that can make it look like you've been blogging for 2 years. That's fine. But just know that the search engine will know that it wasn't posted on that date. You said somebody was asking about posting twice a week.
If posting twice per week or even once, what are the best days to post?
Oh, good question. So we have some really great articles on our blog about the best times to post on social media. There's really not a best time necessarily to post on your blog other than just be consistent. So if you want to post every Monday, post every Monday. If you want to post every Wednesday, whatever 2 days work for you. If you find that most of your audience, maybe you send out a newsletter every Thursday, but people don't read it till over the weekend. You would obviously want to have those blog posts ready to go before you post them, but it's not as important when you post the blog just as much as being consistent with it. So for instance, on our blog, we post Monday through Thursday. So every Monday through Thursday, our readers expect to post from us. Now with social media, it's different. It does matter because the algorithms that social media platforms use can bury things in feeds. They'll usually highlight relevant text, but also newer posts. So Savannah will link to the blog post I'm referring to, but we have a best times to post on social media. Unfortunately, it's sort of you have to figure out what works for you and play around with it. We were reading a bunch of things even here at 20 over 10 about, everyone's saying, you should post at this certain time, and we tried it out and our engagement fell. So then we went back to something we were doing before. We find for us, we get a ton of more engagement a lot of times if we do things on the weekends when other people aren't doing it, or in the evenings even. So you have to kind of play around with it and see what works for you. But in terms of actually publishing the blog post, just pick 1 or 2 days that you can be consistent with and stick to those. Anything else, Amanda? I know we're over time, so I appreciate everyone staying on so long. That is really great to see the interest that we have. This will be recorded. It will be sent out to everyone. There'll be timestamps so you can fast forward or go back to other areas. If you are a current client and you want to know more about using the system for blogging, we will be adding more of what we call advisor workshops on how to use all of the different features available to you in our blogging tool. So be on the lookout for those. We do them usually like once a month, and we also do another one on landing pages. So the blogging one is all about just how do you log into your blog and add images, use the different SEO, social sharing features, best practices, set up the blog, all of those things. So we would highly recommend that you attend one of those if you want to see more just technical tricks and things like that. And again, if you're somebody sitting here thinking this is great, but I'm never going to have time to do this on my own, please check out Content Assist, our latest feature. It really is basically just like having somebody in your office start off blog posts for you that you can go in then and add your own flavor, your own tone. You own all the content once you purchase Content Assist, so you can take it and use it in email marketing, on your website, on your blog, however you want to use it. And it's right now $399 for the year. I think there's about 65 articles in there right now, and 15 new ones are added every week. So be sure to check that out if you could use a leg up on getting these blog posts written. Thanks, everyone.